Hi, I'm Lisa Kahns with the Minnesota Safety Council and the Network of Employers for Traffic Safety. And I am going to be doing a winter driving webinar for you today. Time is everything. Yesterday, we tested those rusty winter driving skills. And today we're just going to bring everything back up to the subconscious, bust some myths, talk about what we can do out on those winter roads when we get out in the hustle and the bustle of the snow and the ice. So I am going to share my screen with you and we will get started. There we go. Before the snow flies, were we ready yesterday? Some were, some weren't, and some weren't. And we did see what happened and what the headlines brought to us, and it was slow go everywhere. And so let's talk about what we can do to be ready. What could have perhaps helped us be more prepared as we get going here. Let's talk about the data. This is national data. Did you know every 12 seconds somebody dies in a motor vehicle crash? Every 12 seconds. Every 10 seconds an injury occurs, and every 5 seconds a vehicle crash occurs. This is when the temperatures are beautiful, the roads are great. This is every day on a normal day. So let's talk about what happened yesterday, what could happen tomorrow, and going through our winter driving months. When the conditions are out of our control, when it's blustery, windy, icy, raining, slushy. And here's what's happening right now in our own backyard. In 2022, here's where we are today, 394 fatalities. 2021, we were at 447. And last year, we finished the year at 440 or 488. We're doing much better than we were at this time last year. There's still room for improvement. One of the leading contributing factors is still speed. We need to take those speeds down, and especially when the roads are not in our favor. Speed is the one thing we can do. Slow down and drive for conditions. Slow down and drive for conditions. One of the most dangerous things we will do every day is drive. One of the most dangerous things, whether it's to and from work, whether it's for work, or whether it's just running an errand. It's getting behind the wheel and driving. And then we have to navigate the environment. And we found out yesterday real quickly, it sometimes isn't that easy. It's just not that easy. Here's what the headlines look like coming out of yesterday, 500 plus crashes on snowy Minnesota roads. First major snow of the season leads to hundreds of crashes. Those were in the morning. And then it led up to be almost 400 crashes, 500 crashes. Snow and ice covered roads caused for a headache for Twin Cities commuters. And the list went on and on throughout the day. So what do we do? It's all about taking control when the conditions are simply out of our control. What do we do when the conditions are out of our control? The light, the road, the traffic, others, and the weather. And when it's snowing out, all of these things tend to be out of our control. We can't see that well. The road lines disappear out in front of us. The traffic is bumper to bumper. Other vehicles are trying to zip around us because they think we're doing too slow, and the weather just doesn't let up. One thing we can do is slow down. We need to slow down. That is the one thing that we can change with our driving behavior when everything else is beyond our control. Our tires have less traction on wet, icy roads. We are not going to be able to stop as fast as we would like to. Our stopping time is reduced, so we need to keep our speeds prepared for the conditions around us. So we may see 45 and 65 and 70. We may be driving 10, 15, 20 for the conditions and what's comfortable for us behind the wheel. How do we determine that speed limit? How do we know what to do? We need to assess those conditions and adjust accordingly. There isn't one right thing out there. It's what you feel comfortable with. And what's comfortable is certainly not the speed limit when the conditions are out of control. Certainly not the speed limit. Here's a good example of how the conditions can get out of control real quickly. Real quickly. So let's talk about what's going on in this particular video and what could have been prevented. The one thing that comes to mind is what we've already been previously talking about, and that is speed. These cars, the conditions you can't see, and it will show you, this is a Minnesota DOT camera. It's going to show you coming in here from the right-hand corner. The visibility factor was a huge issue. They couldn't see, yet they weren't taking the speed into consideration. And they kept coming into the slippery situation, couldn't see what was in front of them. And then that's what happened with that pileup. The best defense to avoid skidding is always going to be slowing down. Always going to be slowing down. So then we get to the ice and black ice. Remember, you can't always see black ice. It's so dangerous around us. It's invisible to the naked eye, and it blends right in with the infrastructure and with the highways. It typically forms at night and in the early mornings when temperatures are at their very, very lowest. So we want to be careful. We want to avoid slamming on their brakes. You want to avoid slamming on your brakes when those black ice conditions. You want to just ease off the accelerator. Stay off the accelerator, remain going slow, and never use your cruise control. Because when you're using your cruise control in either one of these considerations, when the weather up in the right hand or the left hand corner up above or lower, using your cruise control, in order to disengage, you need to tap on those brakes, which can allow for your vehicle to start shifting and adjusting and skidding. So you do not want to use your cruise control in icy situations. Here's another example. You can see the holding pond on the left-hand side, which is creating an icy situation over the roads. Tapped on the brakes and then lost control of their vehicle. In a situation like this, if you're going over that ice, you want to just ease off of your accelerator instead of tapping on your brakes. When you hit drive pavement is when you put your brakes back on if you feel like you're going too fast. One thing I would also like to point out in this particular video is all of the emergency vehicles trying to do their job. In a situation like this, in any snow event or emergency situation, please, please, please give them space to do their job. If you can, move over. If it's too icy, if the weather is bumper to bumper, please slow down. They are doing their job. That is their office. They need the space to do their job. Stay in your vehicle, keep going, keep your eyes on the horizon. When you look over to see what they're doing, your vehicle tends to go in the direction you're looking. So you want to remain looking ahead at a slow pace, if possible, move over. It is a good reminder right now to remind everyone of the move over law we have in Minnesota. It is the law. They're trying to do their job to keep everybody safe. I'm not going to play this entire string, but this is just a really good example of how quickly vehicles can lose control, especially when they're trying to change lanes in ice. That ice buildup, that slush buildup. Try to stay in your lane. If you have to move over, it's very, very, very difficult. Slush buildup, ice buildup. Turn the steering lane slowly and gradually so your vehicle can actually catch underneath. Climbing the hill slowly, coming down too quickly, that leads for the head-on crash. Maintain steady pressure if you need to pull over. Now look here, going too quickly, up, and you're losing out of those divots, getting out of those divots right there is a way that you can lose really quick control when you get out of that path and then you're not driving for those conditions. So again, back to that, when you're in that slushy, sloppy mixture of snow and ice and you feel like you need to move lanes, if you have to get over to a lane, make sure you're turning your steering wheel slowly and gradually. So you approach the slush at a shallow angle. This helps minimize the force against the side of your tires so your steering wheel doesn't get pulled. Maintain steady pressure on this accelerator pedal to keep from applying your brake. You don't want to have to hit your brake because you're already in a slushy, icy mix. Hitting that brake can cause you to start losing control of your vehicle and then slide over into the lane that you would like to be in. Rear wheel and all wheel. This is tough getting in and out of those skids. What do I do? How do I get in? How do I get out? Easier said than done because when we get into a skid, we panic. Steer into the skid. Oh, what does that mean? I know when we're in the skid, we're thinking, what does that mean? This diagram on the bottom is a great example of what steering into the skid means. You want to steer into the same direction of the back end of your vehicle. And take a second to look at this diagram of what that means. Steer into the skid, which means steer into the same side as the back end of your car is sliding. And if you have a front wheel, you want to straighten the steering wheel, ease off the accelerator. We don't want any braking going on because we've already talked about how braking on ice can really make us lose control of our vehicle. If you're driving a vehicle with a manual transmission, depress the clutch. Focus your eyes on the target. You want to be looking at where you want your vehicle to go. And if you don't gain control of that vehicle within 2 to 3 seconds, then depress the brake lightly. Anti-lock brakes. So anti-lock brakes, you want to let your brakes do the job for you. With anti-lock brakes, that means when it's time to brake off of the ice on dry pavement, you want to push down and stay pushed down with those brakes. They're going to engage for you and pump for you. So you don't want to be doing that pump mechanism or method with anti-lock brakes. Anti-lock brakes are going to pump for you. So you're going to push down, let them engage. It's going to sound a little gritty because they're going to be connecting with the wheels, and let them engage for you. Without anti-lock brakes, you're going to use that off technique. Let your foot off of the accelerator. Let your foot off the accelerator on that slippery road. And then if you need to that's when you're going to use that off or pump technique. So gently pump on the brake, gently pump off and on. So leave your foot off the accelerator, keep your foot off the brake. If you don't gain control in 2 to 3 to 4 seconds, then that's when you're going to gently pump on the brake to try to steer your vehicle, straighten your vehicle. And bridge decks are a tricky one. So when you are on a bridge decks do not get, when you're on the bridge deck, they do not get air from all sides, or they get air from all sides. So they are not getting the temperature cool from the bottom like the regular roadsides do. So they're getting air from both sides. In the morning and the evening, they're going to freeze and thaw a little bit quicker than our roads typically do. This means the air is going to surround that surface from above and below. It loses heat from both sides and the air comes in. It has no way to trap in that heat like our roadways do. So please be aware of the black ice that can freeze up very quickly on and off a bridge deck, and your entrance ramps. Entrance and exit ramps are also really, really good at freezing up a little bit quicker, entrance and exit ramps, sooner in the morning and the evening for this very same reason. They don't have that tendency to thaw out. They're not seeing the sunlight. They're not automatically insulated. And so they tend to be slipperier than the roadways. You do not want to be hitting your brakes. Again, ease off that accelerator instead of hitting your brake. If you have to, wait until you get over the ice before tapping on the brake, get into a safe lane, get past that ice, and then tap on your brakes where your tires can actually grip down to the pavement. And here's an example of what can happen going over a bridge deck. Watch the far right hand. Now, of course, this is an extreme example of somebody who taps their brakes going over a bridge deck. You really want to take into consideration when you're going over your bridge deck, if you slow, you want to go slow, and B, if you need to deaccelerate instead of tapping on those brakes, try to just take your foot off the accelerator, slow down, be really, really mindful if there's ice, black ice, and then again, step on your brake or tap your brake where you can connect with the pavement and not an icy patch. And here's another great example of driving for conditions. Now this is coming down an entrance ramp, not driving for conditions on the other side, and then Murphy's Law occurs. So a slippery entrance ramp, and then somebody who was driving way too fast for conditions, and then a crash occurs. And here we can just look at that and think to ourselves, were there controlled systems in places? Was there black ice? Was I driving for conditions? Was I, as the driver, doing everything I could to have prevented this situation? And under bridge decks, watch the far left lane. You can see the ice under that bridge deck. The truck driver just realized he was on ice and tapped his brakes. And across 4 lanes he goes. So what I want to bring to your attention in this particular video, you can see this is a pretty normal look for our roads. Those are nice and clean, except for under that bridge deck. Again, bridge decks underneath the bridge deck is the same situation as above. They are not going to thaw as quickly because they don't see daylight and the sun. So they are going to stay a little bit icier in the morning and in the evening hours. And they're not going to have that tendency to really thaw and dry and thaw and dry. So be very wary of underneath those bridge decks of stepping on your brake. That particular driver realized they were on ice, tapped his brakes, and then shot across 4 lanes of traffic. If you were in that situation, the safest thing to do is just ease off that accelerator. If you feel like you're out of control going too fast, wait until you're over that patchy ice. And then when you see pavement again, you can step on the brake where it's safe, where you know that you're going to be able to connect with dry pavement. And following distance, so incredibly important. When it is a great, beautiful sunshine and the elements are wonderful, we want to always be using a 3-second following distance. A 3-second following distance. And what does that mean? It just means use a marker. So you can pick a pole or a mile marker or anything. The vehicle in front of you should pass that marker. You should not pass it for 3 seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. When the weather is inclement, or like yesterday, you want to really make sure that you're pumping that up to 5, maybe even 10. Because the more space you have in front of you, the more time you have to slow down, prepare to stop, take evasive maneuver. If you have space in front of you and you're coming up to intersections, which are so incredibly slippery right now, you want to take the time at an intersection to make sure that the vehicle from either side is going to prepare to stop. Do they have space to slow down and stop? Is the car behind me going to have time to stop? This is where that 3 and 5 seconds really comes into hand. Is the car going to have time to stop behind me, or do I need to take an evasive maneuver? Do I have enough space in front of me if I hit ice where my car is going to have room to slide? This is so incredibly important in addition to slowing down. And here's a perfect example of what can happen when we're not allowing that space in front of us. This car, you can tell the black car rear-ended somebody. The white car rear-ended the black car so hard it pushed him up and over. There weren't any injuries in this particular crash, but I can guarantee you this caused some heartache to quite a few people. They had to spend time exchanging information, dealing with insurance companies, dealing with perhaps getting their vehicles fixed, maybe missed a couple day work. Nobody wants to have to deal with this in the wintertime. And then we have our friendly foe, the deer. The deer, please don't veer for deer. What we want to do if a deer jumps out in front of us is not swerve. Do not swerve for the deer. You want to ease off the accelerator and hit them. Don't step on the brake. When you step on your brake, the front of your vehicle goes down, and then an animal can come up and into your windshield. If you're driving through, you want to hit that deer, ease off the accelerator so the deer goes up and away or up and over, and then pull over where it's safe to pull over and call the authorities or take care of what you have to take care of. It's always safer to do that because what happens if you swerve, you don't know what's next to you. It could be a cement pylon. It could be something that you're going to run into, a passenger, a pedestrian. And then on the left of you, you could have head-on traffic coming your way. So the easiest and the safest thing, or not easiest, but the safest thing to do really is to hit it. And that's with animals in general. Of course, if you can slow down without in a residential area without harming anybody, please do so. But really do not swerve. Swerving can really, really harm you and the others around you. And sharing the road is so incredibly important at this time of the year. We need to remember to share the road with our friends. Be patient. Remember, snowplows are out there working to improve the road conditions for all of us. Stay back at least 5 car lengths behind the plow and away from the snow clouds. They cannot see you when you are in a snow cloud. Stay alert for snowplow drivers because they do make frequent turns and they may pull through an intersection and have to back out of it. And slow down for conditions and give yourself plenty of travel time. And now I'm just going to show a quick snippet of a video that is on the Minnesota DOT website that gives you a view of what snowplow drivers actually see. And there's a good example of what they can see when they are out plowing.
Trying to keep one passenger every time I make one round trip, I come back and there's holes in it.
That video can be found on the Minnesota DOT's website, and we are also going to be sharing that video on the Minnesota Network of Employers website. Another tidbit I'd like to share with everybody is please, please, please remind children. They like to build forts at this time of the year. The snowplows are going to be going through residential areas. Snowplow drivers cannot see them either. So remind children to be playing a safe distance away from the roadways so everybody is safe when the snowplows are out plowing. So what can I do? What can I do to keep myself and others safe while on the road? Is your car road ready? Prepare your vehicle. Are your windows clean? Do you have enough windshield washer fluid so if you get stuck in traffic, all of a sudden the fluid's not gone and you can't see? Is your gas tank actually halfway full so you don't run out and all of a sudden now you have to pull over because you're out of gas? Do you have jumper cables and is your battery going to make it through the winter? Do you have an emergency kit in case you get stranded? And are your tires winter ready? And what do I mean by that? Are you out there right now assessing, oh, I think I can make it one more year with these tires and talking yourself into it? Or do you really think it's time to go out and purchase those tires? I know it's an expensive purchase, but tires are so incredibly important at this time of the year because that tread is the connection between you and the pavement. And when it is slippery and wet and icy, it makes an incredible difference to have a good set of tires during the winter months and moving forward into spring. Be aware of the weather conditions. Listen to the weather forecast each day if you're planning a trip. I know there's a lot of people who don't like to buckle up or bundle up and put a whole bunch of heavy winter gear on. So then make sure that you have hats and mittens and extra blankets in your vehicle just in case. And utilize Minnesota 511. Watch the weather cameras, be prepared, see what roads are closed, what roads are open, and know where you're going, when you're supposed to get there, and plan ahead of time. Plan before you travel, know where you're going and how to get there, map out the directions, let somebody know, hey, I'm leaving, and this is when approximately I should be there. It may take you longer. It may take you an hour longer, but by being patient and slower is much better than being in a crash or in the ditch. Packing that emergency care kit is so important to be ready if something does go wrong, having certain things readily available. And the most favorite part of my emergency care kit and this particular emergency care kit is a copy of an emergency plan. As silly as that sounds, take a piece of paper and just jot down the things that you will do if something happens and you get in a crash or you get stranded during the winter months. What will I need? What will I do? Who will I call? If this happens to you, all of a sudden we're agitated and we're scared and our hearts are beating and we can't think straight. If you have step-by-step directions of what you're going to do, it takes the angst out of it. You can just open up your glove box or open up your emergency care kit and you have notes for yourself. Okay, this is what I'm going to do first. This is what I'm going to do second. This is what I'm going to do third. It makes good sense. I have crashed. What do I do? This is how you can work this. Stay buckled in your vehicle is extremely important. Leaving your car is extremely dangerous. So what you want to do is assess the situation. Is anyone injured? If so, by all means, immediately you want to call 911. Are you safe? Is it a dangerous situation? Are you in the middle of a road? Are you in a curve where other cars are going to continually run into you? If you're partially on the highway or on a hill or in a situation like that, you do want to get to the furthest location possible. You want to get out of the way from the crash. You do not want to stand around. You do not want to stand in the middle. You want to get to the furthest point away. Once that happens, where you find a location that's safe and away from the area, if you feel that that's the issue, after it's safe and reasonable, you're going to want to report your crash. That is when you're going to call. They're going to want to know approximately where you are in the location and a brief description of what has happened. If you're stuck in the snow or the mud, for whatever other reason, you're going to want to call a tow truck, or you're going to want to call somebody or roadside assistance. You can call roadside assistance and then give them the information. If that happens and there are no injuries and you feel comfortable with just calling roadside assistance, then please call the authorities back and say, a tow truck is on the way. There is no reason for roadside assistance to come. I can just get pulled out by a tow truck. That way you don't have two people coming at the same time. Do not try to push yourself out, because that is just another reason or another, there's more, there's a better chance for you to be hit by another vehicle. The safest place for you is buckled in your vehicle if it's a location where you do not feel like you are in harm's way. If you feel like it's another vehicle and you crashed into another vehicle and you're thinking, well, how do I exchange information? What you want to do is just simply get out real quickly. I've called 911, they're on their way. Let the authorities do the exchanging of the information for you instead of you standing outside on the roadway. And this next video is a great example of that. They're on the phone, they're waiting. You can see there's already 2 different crashes that have occurred in the same area. I think we can push ourselves out. We should call the authorities, and here, which we see quite frequently at this time of the year, is another vehicle slamming into that same site. This is a very, very good example of staying in your vehicle buckled. That is the safest place for you. If you do not feel safe in your vehicle buckled, that is when you go out and you go to the furthest place away. Now you can see there's already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These people just got out because they crashed, and they're just adding fuel to the fire and the ability to be hit. And here's another example. Underneath the bridge deck, there's some ice. As cars are going under that bridge deck, they're hitting that same patch of ice. And these people over on the roadside are out of their vehicle. So what happens if there's a blizzard and we get stranded and we feel like we're in the middle of nowhere? Again, make sure you tell people whether you're going 10 miles or 100 miles, where and when they can expect you. Have some sort of a time frame of when people can expect you. If you do get stranded on the side of the road, make sure you have a bright colored cloth or something bright colored to identify your vehicle. If it is dusk or nighttime, remove your dome light so the inside of your vehicle is brighter. Put your flashers on, and if time starts going by, turn them on when you hear a vehicle going by to save on the energy of your vehicle. You don't want to wear down your battery by just leaving your flashers on. Don't feel like you need to get out and start getting yourself out of that situation, because you could get wet and now you're going to lose insulation and you're going to be cold. You want to make sure that that tailpipe is clear and that there's fresh air going through your vehicle. And try to stay off your phone if you can, so you save on the battery. So this is a big list right here, and some of these things are great tips to put on that emergency plan that you're going to put in that glove box. So remember to let people know where you're going. Remember to have some bright colored clothing or cloth with you. The dome light can pop off, emergency flashers, and then keep that fresh air going through you and that tailpipe cleared. And keep her cool. It's so much easier said than done. Try to stay calm. Try to remember the storm's going to end. But if you feel like you want to take off because you think you know where you're at and the convenience store is just right down the way, your car may be found. Your tracks are going to be covered and they aren't going to know what direction you went. The very safest place for you is with your vehicle. I do very few presentations without showing this video. This video is about distracted driving, and it does not matter if we are distracted, impaired, unbuckled, or speeding. Any of those things combined with inclement weather are ingredients for disaster.
So I just confess that I text and drive? If I get a text, I'll look at my phone.
It's definitely texting.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Snapchat. I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Is that like making Snapchats or watching them?
Making them.
A, texting is like my main form of communication.
Boredom, honestly.
And B, well, I guess no, it's really just A.
I've only never done it at stoplights. I've always been really good about it.
The passenger has a pretty important role driving now, where they're like, oh, red light, red light.
If someone that you like texts you, you're like, you can't just like let it sit there without just knowing what they said.
Because what if something exciting's happening or something happened?
Like, every time I do it, I think about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
So I'd want to introduce you to a friend of ours.
My name is JC.
Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dash.
Justin, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I just really quickly want to have a chat, tell you what happened to me. When I was 21 years old, driving home from my college graduation ceremony, driver on his phone was so distracted. He turned left into the intersection at a red light. Another car, an 18-wheeler, swerved to miss him and hit my family's car. And the resulting collision actually killed both of my parents. I spent 2 months in the hospital fighting for my own life, and then 2 more months in a rehab hospital, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again, learning how to dress myself and how to feed myself. I live with a partially paralyzed body. I didn't have my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married.
Having sort of like met JC, because you look at JC and sort of give those same reasons.
Usually I use my phone to change a song on. I try to use it as little as possible, but.
I'm not gonna look at my phone ever again.
Honestly, if I have been sitting at a red light, I'll like glance down to see if my mom's texting me, but the people's lives that are impacted from something that is so stupid.
I can assure you on my drive home right now, I'm not going to use my phone and drive, and I'm not going to do it when I go to work tomorrow and the next day after that until, it becomes a habit, and that just doesn't happen at all.
I know this is hard. I'm sorry. It's hard for me too, but this is real. You have the power to really actually make a difference and do something about it.
Thank you.
I really do feel like we all have the ability to make a difference, and we have the power to do so within us, whether it's slowing down during the winter months when the snow is out, whether it's driving sober, buckling up and paying attention. It's just changing one behavior to make all of us safe while out on the roadways. Don't let winter driving scare you. When it comes to driving in snow or ice, you may feel nervous at first, and that's okay. Winter driving can be challenging. Take the time to make sure your vehicle is in great shape for the season. Take a deep breath and remember, we're all in this together. Have a safe winter. Thanks for joining me today, and stick around for some great question and answer. Anybody have any questions?
I do have a question, if I may.
Sure.
I do have an all-wheel drive.
Yes.
And I have ABS brakes.
Yes.
So I still, even with those brakes, I would still steer into the back end and then brake smoothly, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Correct. Good
Okay,
job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Winter can be tricky. Winter can be tricky. Any other questions? It's a lot.
I had a question.
Sure.
You see these emergency responder trucks out on the highway. How do you get hold of those? Is that all done through 911, or is there a phone number you can call?
No, those are our first trucks, and those come out of the Minnesota DOT. They're dispatched out of the Minnesota DOT. And so they are GPS driven, and what's going to happen is they will be dispatched. The truck who's closest to that location in the Twin Cities area will they be dispatched first to that area through their camera system. That's a great question. And so that's how those are that's how they are dispatched out.
Okay, so you don't have to call 911, they automatically know through the cameras.
Correct.
Great to know. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Sometimes when you see somebody who's driving super erratically and dangerously, is it safe to pull over and call 911 and report their location, or what is the right protocol to have that addressed?
If you feel unsafe when you are out driving, it is always, if you, in the winter months, I always feel like it's okay to pull over where it's a safe location if you have to be on your phone. Know the location and pull over to a safe location, and then call and report if you feel unsafe.
And
That makes
stay in
sense?
your car.
Always stay in your car. Never, there's no reason for you to get out of your car and unbuckle. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
And that's, I can't drive that point home. That's such an important point. In your car buckled is the most safe place for you. And when I say pull over, to a safe location. And please remember, the side of the highway is for emergencies. And so in an emergency situation is what we use the side of the highway for. So please keep that in mind. Other questions?
There's one in the chat, Lisa.
Oh, sure.
Some people look at their phone at a red light. Is that a
Oh.
problem?
Yeah, that's illegal. So our hands-free law says that it is okay to be on your phone hands-free. And please remember that is, if you have to be, remember that hands-free is taking up our cognitive distraction. And so when you are at a red light, you have your phone in your hand, and you cannot have your phone in your hand with our hands-free law. So whether or not you're at a red light or on your phone, that is still that is illegal. And so you can't be texting, you can't have the phone in your hand. I always say, our hands-free law is supposed to be wireless at all times. And so that is something that we do not want to be doing anytime. You do not want to have that phone in your hand at any time.
Lisa, could I just expand on that a little bit, please?
Please.
Yes, you're right. You can't have the phone in your hand. You also can't be interacting with the phone when you're, when it's on the dashboard. I saw somebody the other day driving down the road having a FaceTime conversation with somebody on their dashboard. When you're in a traffic lane, traffic situation, anywhere like that, unless you're pulled over and off the traffic way, don't touch the phone is the safest way to do it. And I saw somebody ask, if you can't get out of the car, if you have a crash, how do you exchange information? In that situation, the safest thing to do is get out briefly and tell the person let's go meet on the off-ramp.
Yep.
If the cars are drivable. If they're not, call for 911 and wait in your car for them to arrive.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Yep.
Sure.
That's a great point. The authorities can help you get that exchange of information. Any other questions? This is great conversation. Now's the time to ask.
I have a question. I just moved here from out of state and haven't driven in snow in 20 years until yesterday. So I expected the snow, but did not expect the ice at the intersections. So when I felt the ABS engage when I was approaching. I was driving slowly, but when I was approaching four-way stop, and on both occasions, I started sliding through the intersection like a lot of people did yesterday. So my question is, was I supposed to keep engaging with ABS and go down harder, or or do you just go with the slide at that point? Fortunately, there was no one around. I'm just not sure what to do when that arises again.
Okay, so your ABS works when you push your brakes on and let the ABS engage. If you would have let back up and then push back down, it would have taken twice as long for your ABS to engage. So you did the right thing. It's a very scary feeling because you can hear it gritty and your car's not stopping, but it isn't, you're on ice at that point. So what you want, your car isn't going to stop any faster if you let up and keep pumping down and let up and keep pumping down. Does that make sense?
Right. So should I have like pushed it harder in, I guess? Because I think when I felt it engaging, you get that nervous feeling. So do you go in harder at that point, or is it pretty much that it's going to do what it's going to do at that point?
It's going to do what it's going to do. You just push your brakes down firmly and then wait for your car to stop.
Okay. And if it's still going through the intersection at that point, if you feel you're going, should you then veer or just keep going straight? I guess that's like,
that's okay.
part two of
So
that.
in an intersection situation, and that's a great question, in an intersection situation, and that happened all over the place yesterday, you have to make that decision per intersection. There's not, it's not one size fits all for a situation like that, because if there's another car coming from the other direction, you have to take evasive maneuver. So in my situation yesterday, when that happened to me, I was able to clear the intersection safely because there was not another vehicle coming. Had there been another vehicle coming, you may have to take evasive maneuver and get out of the way. So each situation is going to be different. The one thing that I can say is intersections, to the point you just made, are slippery. Prepare to drive that much slower each and every time and allow yourself that space, because then if you start sliding, you may have the ability to stop before you get into the intersection. I know that sounds easier said than done. And I know trying to make that happen isn't always going to be the perfect utopia. But now, even for yesterday, I'm a traffic safety professional and we have to put that reminder back up to the forefront. It happened, I was going through actually a roundabout when it happened. And you just have to remember space, time, slow, space, time, slow. Unfortunately, it's trying to prevent it from happening versus trying to get out of it when it happens.
No, that's great advice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? These are excellent questions.
Is there such a thing as too slow when you're driving in snow?
Not when you're driving in snow and driving for conditions. And please always keep in mind, the vehicles behind you and around you are going to try to push you or try to make you feel feel like you're going faster. Don't let them. Drive for conditions and drive for what you feel is safe. Let them go around you. Let them be the car that goes in front of you. Let them get in front of you. Drive for conditions and what you feel is safe.
Lisa, there's a question that popped in the chat. Do you have good statistics or resources around distractions from using the push to text or the call through your vehicle CarPlay system, or when folks are interacting with communications that come to the driver through their Apple Watch while driving?
I have access to some information, and so if I can see who sent in that chat. So if you would like to send me an email and we can have an offline email conversation, and I would love to follow up with some data on that. I do work with a person that has some national data that has information or has access to some data sources that I might be able to get you some information on that.
Lisa, can I
Yep,
jump
please
on this
do.
one again?
You can,
Uh,
you can.
For that question about interacting with other methods to reach your phone. Again, anytime you're having a conversation, even a verbal conversation, is somewhat of a distraction when you're driving. So the less you can do it, the better. Interacting with your watch is the same as holding your cell phone in your hand. It's very distracting and you're liable to get a ticket if you're seen. What else? Call or text through vehicle CarPlay systems. It is not legal to text through any method when you're driving with your cell phone. So hopefully that helps. And the hands-free law was very tough to get through, and there was a lot of data that was behind the push to get that, which all show the less you interact with the phone, the safer you are. And there's 4 major contributing factors that cause crashes. Excuse me, at least in Minnesota. Speed, unbuckled people are more inclined to become a fatality. Oh my God, I'm blanking. Impairment, yes, impairment and distraction. The only one that has gone down at all is distraction. And it started from 2019 to 2020 and it's continuing down. And 2019 is when the hands-free law went into place. So it is having an effect, and the more we can do to comply with it and stay on that road, the less people are going to have hurt and killed.
Thank you. I always say hands-free is not risk-free. It's a if you must. If you must, hands-free is an option. It's certainly not risk-free.
Yeah. And in the Office of Traffic Safety, we even have an internal policy that when you're driving for work, you cannot use a mobile device, even hands-free. It's just, that's the safest way. And that's what Director Hansen has decided we're going to do.
Excellent. Thank you. We can keep this conversation going. Any other questions?
There was a question about, do you recommend getting snow tires, or are all season tires good enough if you take the precautions you mentioned?
That's up to the individual. Snow tires are a wonderful thing because that tread allows the connection to that pavement. And so I personally am an advocate for snow tires, but that doesn't mean everyone should jump out and get snow tires. It is just a matter of having good tires, and good tires can be all season tires as long as that tread is a good tread. You want to have tires that are going to be viable in all seasons, for wet, for snow, for sleet, for muck, because you want that tread to connect with the pavement. So when you have the ability to have to make a fast stop, a hard stop, etc., your vehicle is going to be able to do so. Any other questions? And my contact, oh yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Lisa, one question came in that I wanted to address, and the person asked, so you can't even use the talk to text feature in your car to use your phone. I suppose technically that probably is legal, because anything you can do with voice commands or with one touch is technically legal. It's not a good idea, because dictating a text and then reading the incoming text, I think the reading part of it would be against the law, quite honestly. So, the more we look for how far can we push the law the more danger that people put themselves in. It's
It's
there
the-
for a reason. Yep.
Manual, cognitive, and physical. So your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and your brain in the game. And without any of those things, you know, and especially that cognitive factor, if you don't have that cognitive factor, which is your brain in the game, and now you're going to take your eyes off the road, those again are ingredients for disaster. Who's driving that car? Now you throw in some winter weather and it's just impossible to drive. So thank you for that follow-up, Craig.
Thanks for letting me pipe in. Oh, be quiet.
You are doing a great job. You're hired.
Yeah, this has been a really great Q&A, and it was recommended earlier. We'll do our very best to try to add just this Q&A portion to
Yes.
your new recording.
Yes.
So we'll be able
I was
to kind of-
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So we'll make it work. Any other questions, comments? And if you hang up and think, oh, what about, please feel free to email me.
One of our attendees said he used to live in Fargo. All seasons were fine there. In Duluth now, snow tires highly recommended.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, that's awesome.
He's right.
Yeah, there, yeah, that's, and you know, that's what I said in my opinion, but I can't, I'm not saying that they're a must. They're just a good thing to have. All right, well, I think that we will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you again for your patience. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you all learned something new today, and we will get this posted just as soon as we can. Have a great day, and please, please, please drive safe.